This is lesson number 7 in a series of 8 lessons on techniques for creative living. This lesson is entitled Opinions versus the Truth, or How to Stop Living in Your Head and Start Living in Reality. Everything that exists in the world exists independently of your opinion of it. In his best-selling book, Pulling Your Own Strings, Dr. Wayne Dyer said, in the chapter on judgments versus reality, as strange as it may sound at first, many people victimize themselves by placing more stock in their beliefs about or attitudes toward what is real than in reality itself. Probably one of the strangest things that I have ever learned in my life, and I see it happening all the time with other people and frequently in myself, is that we spend more time in our own thoughts than we do in the world of reality. We spend more time in our thinking about things than we do with the things that we think about. We spend so much time thinking about things that we hardly ever get to experience the thing that we're thinking about, and that includes our relationship with people. Hardly ever do we have a true experience with another person. We spend lots of time with people, yes. But so often, just as the experience begins, our mind takes over, becomes inebriated by the enthusiasm of its verbosity. It starts thinking the things that it thinks. And before you know it, you've lost conscious contact with the person with whom you speak. How many miles, hundreds or thousands of miles, have you driven in your automobile not knowing that you were in your automobile? Not knowing where you were in your automobile. Has this occurred to you? With great regularity does it occur. There's a reason for this. The reason is that we have so many concepts about things, and we think, in time we come to think, that our concept is the thing itself. Let me give you an example. Many people say this really is a nice day, or this is a terrible day. A terrible day. Last night I rode the elevator in our apartment building with 2 men. 3 of us walked through the elevator door at the same time. The first person aboard was Al Sheldon, who is in our cassette room tonight taping. Al is here with great regularity. If you know Al Sheldon, you will know that he always has a smile on his face, because that's the way he has come to be. Now, Al Sheldon did not always have a smile on his face, but he's changed so many of his concepts about life that life has now become quite an exciting experience for him. The second person on the elevator was a young man, a new tenant in the apartment building, and of course I was the third person there. And Al turned to me with great enthusiasm and that lovely smile and said, "This has been a wonderful day," and he was almost vibrating when he said it. The stranger, the young man, the new tenant in the apartment building, paused and said, "Why did you say that today is a wonderful day?" Well, Al only had about 3 floors to go before his elevator stopped. And so he gave him a 3-floor answer, and the door opened, and Al stepped out still with that lovely smile and disappeared around the corner. And that young man turned to me and said, "I don't know why he said that. This has been a terrible day." Now, which of these 2 men was right? Neither of them. Yesterday was not a wonderful day, nor was yesterday a terrible day. Yesterday was yesterday. It was a day. Days are neither wonderful or terrible. Al Sheldon had a marvelous experience with himself all day long. He gave permission to life to cause exciting things to occur, and his reactions to those things were conscious, fulfilling, and rewarding, not because they were of themselves special things. It was only his experience with the events of the day. The other young man had quite a different idea. Nothing is good or bad except that thinking makes it so. Have you been waiting for the day that your ship will come in, that wonderful day that will come? You will not find it. It cannot come. The only thing that can change is not days, but you, your consciousness in a day, your consciousness within yourself. Now, all this talk about judgments and attitudes and thinking and reality may seem far-fetched to you in relation to some of the practical problems that you have in your life. You might be thinking, well, what does this have to do with me and my life? I've got real problems, Jack. Let's get on with the business. I came here to solve some problems, real problems. Okay, let's solve them. Consider for a moment the implications of letting a little bit of rain cast a shadow over a whole day of your life for no good reason. That's a problem. If one has the mind that says that certain things can color and flavor my life, and certain things that color and flavor my life with darkness, these things are problems. Suppose, for example, you just lost your job, or you had an accident with your new car, and then you say and feel, that should not have happened to me, and because it should not have happened to me, it was a bad thing, and I will respond to this bad thing by feeling certain unpleasant feelings inside myself. What do you mean it shouldn't happen? It did happen. It occurred, did it not? Then it must have been supposed to have happened. Now that this thing has happened, what am I going to do about it? How am I going to react to this experience emotionally? Well, ordinary people living ordinary lives have no choice but to react to certain things in a very unpleasant, negative, fearful, depressed way. Are we agreed? Everybody on earth knows that there's certain things that you get upset about regularly. Right? Wrong. Nothing on earth is worth being upset about. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You can live upon this earth for the next 89 years, and you will never, ever experience one thing that of itself has the power to upset you. The power to upset you is resident within yourself and comes only from your reaction. It comes from the way that you see the things that exist in the world. You simply cannot change the world, but you can immediately change your reaction to anything that might be occurring to you. Let's paraphrase the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the insight and wisdom to see things and people as they really are, and the capacity to accept what is with an unclouded, unruffled, poised, serene state of mind. Grant me the courage to change my own concepts, my ideas and reactions, and the power to go into enthusiastic action to improve my life, not losing sight of what really is. What really is. People who are constantly cursing reality doom themselves to lives of needless anger and frustration, worry and fear. And the moment that you say that this thing should not be happening to me, you have, in that moment, doomed yourself to a series of events that will be very frustrating and fear, anxiety producing. Or the moment that you say, what a horrible thing that was. Oh, did you hear what's going on over there? Things are not horrible. Did you know that? Things are not horrible. We only have horrible reactions to things. horrible concepts about things. You can recognize an incident like a mugging, a bankruptcy, an accident, something that has occurred, but you can change the way that you react to it. One of the things that we have to give up is our sense of tragedy. There are no tragedies. Only the concept, only the feeling, only the reaction of tragedy. Let me tell you a real experience that happened about 2 weeks ago. My telephone rang. It was one of our Oregon members. We have people who are members of this church who live all over the country and who receive cassette tapes of lessons just like this. And George Leland is a very successful man who lives in Oregon with his lovely family. George called me early one morning, distressed because his young son, I think his son is about 6 years of age, had an experience the evening before that appeared to be a stroke. They were to take him to the hospital almost immediately for an examination to determine the nature, and the prognosis was serious, not critical. It was not a critical thing, but for a child so young, the thought was that how could this possibly have happened? And there is a tendency in those moments to think of pictures, to let one's imagination begin to create a very dark set of circumstances. And George loves his son very much. We talked for just a few moments, and George began to lose the sense of impending doom, the feeling of tragedy. And we said, let's become aware that within your son there is this spirit. Let's not just look at the evidence that is here of the senses. What the doctors have told you is correct. It really is correct as far as it goes, but it does not go far enough. Let's go farther than what the doctors have told you and begin to see and to believe and call forth this activity. As a matter of fact, let's let this be the most exciting day that you've ever spent with your son. And there was a moment of shocked silence. A day of examinations in the hospital, the most exciting day? Yes. And not only that, let's cause your son to believe that this is going to be the most exciting day that he has spent with his father. You'll never guess what happened. Father and son had the most rewarding experience that they've ever shared together. And I have George's letter. Hi, Jack. Life is fantastic. Our son's tests have all come out normal. He's in perfect divine health. Positive energy flows from us. It was an exciting day going to have the brain scan tests. My son could hardly wait to have the tests, and then we went out to get some ice cream later. Your divine energy, coupled with ours in the mastermind consciousness, has even cured him of some congestion he was supposedly having from allergies. In other words, not only was that condition changed, but so were some other things in the mind and in the body of George Leland's son. What happened? What do you think happened? Consciousness changed. The letting go of what appeared to be and entering into an actual experience with reality. Now, what is reality? Reality for you and for me is that you are a spiritual being, that there is within you a spirit, a power capable of the most astonishing demonstrations. Do you believe it? Now, we believe it now sitting here together. But can you believe it? Will you believe it tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, or sometime later this week or next week when some difficulty arises? Or in that difficulty, will you begin to believe the things that you believe? Will you let your mind take over with its old ideas? You see, George and his son and I had moments, minutes, and even hours of reality being outside our thinking. Learn to appreciate and enjoy reality. The reality that you see looks very exciting when you pause and become one with it and enjoy it. When you're first in the desert, you first discover that it's hot and sandy and the wind blows the sand right into the tops of your shoes. Have you noticed how it is when you walk into the desert? Jim has. Now, you can fight the conditions mentally, or you can change your concept. But if you fight the conditions, remember one thing, the desert is not going to change. It keeps on being the desert. It's just as hot and sandy, and the wind blows just as strongly, and the sand will get just as deep inside your shoes. But you also have the option of looking around with new eyes, beginning to enjoy the desert for what it really is. The desert is the desert. It really is the desert. Suppose you let go of all of your old ideas about the desert and said, I want to experience this desert. I have never had a real experience with a desert. I'm going to feel its heat. I'm going to let that heat just permeate my mind and my body, sink into my pores. I'm going to pretend that I've got a free sauna going here, and I'm just going to just immerse myself in it. I'm going to see and hear the little lizards scurrying around everywhere. I'm going to look for a horned toad. I've never seen a horned toad. I'll look for a desert fox. I will appreciate these cactus flowers. And that hawk up there circling is watching me. Look at that hawk watching me. I think I will watch me. I will have an experience with me on the desert. I will enjoy me on this desert. I will enjoy what my eyes see, and I will touch these strange things with my fingers. I will not think what I think about the hot sun or the sand or any of these things. There are hundreds of ways to appreciate a desert if you don't choose to call it boring. If you say, gosh, I don't like deserts. The last time I walked in a desert with someone, a friend of mine, he turned and said, I don't think I'd like to live here. Well, what does that have to do with it? Hardly anyone wants to live in a desert. But you can certainly enjoy a desert while you're in the desert, can't you? Of course you can. We have so much foolishness going on in our mind. We can't enjoy the desert because the mind wants to keep talking. It wants to say all these things. Now, try the same thing with your present real life situation. Become aware of your life. Enjoy what is. Keep your mind out of it. Keep your thoughts out of it. Keep those words out of it. Be conscious and enjoy, appreciate. I love a storm. I might love storms more than anybody you ever saw in your whole life. I just wish one would blow up right now. If a storm should occur, remember we can enjoy it in a multitude of ways. You can fear it, you can hide from it, you can condemn it, you can curse it. But each of these choices will deprive you of the chance to appreciate one of life's most exquisite experiences, a storm. You can also, if you choose to, loosen up in a storm. You can feel it on your body. You can walk out into it, listen to the sounds of it. You can smell it. You can caress it. And you can take delight in the uniqueness of that experience. A storm is exciting. It will awaken things in you that have been dormant and asleep. And when the storm clears, you can observe the clearing of the sky, the new formation of clouds, and you'll actually feel a similar clearing in your own mind. If you go out into a storm, when it becomes calm, so will your mind be calm. Now try the same thing now with any storm that might be taking place in your mind. Just let the clouds blow away. And you'll find, if you will, that those dark clouds were merely concepts that you had about some particular situation. You only had a storm because you thought certain things about that matter or that person. Get out of your thoughts and begin to experience the reality of the thing itself, and you'll be astonished at how clear the air will become and how bright the sky. You can do the same thing at a party, a committee meeting, an evening alone, a ballet. I just might love parties more than anybody you ever saw. Some people that have seen me at parties think that I sneak around behind the bar, but I don't. I don't have to. I just enjoy being with people. I love music. I love excitement. I love the dynamic electricity that's in the air that's generated at times like that. I just might love talking to you more than anybody that's ever talked to you. Do you think that I enjoy talking to you when we're together these Wednesdays and Sundays? I do. You are more important to me than what I say to you. And often I can remember not just one expression on your face, but the changing of your mood that I see happen while we're here together. I love the dynamic of you. Later when we meet downstairs, you and I may not spend more than 15 or 20 seconds, maybe a minute or two together, but I promise you that when we meet, you will have my undivided attention for that period of time. Do you believe that? And for that moment, no human being on this earth will exist for me except you. You will even be more important to me than what I say to you. I won't even remember what I say to you. I hope you do. But I won't. I'm not going to get caught up in words and ideas and thoughts and concepts. You're not going to get me downstairs and get me caught up in one of those intellectual conversations where you tell me what you think and I tell you what I think, and in this process we lose each other. That's no way to live. I'm going to let go of all of my old ideas. I'm going to enjoy the sun when it rises. And if I start thinking about it, I'm going to quit. Not watching the sun, but I'm going to quit thinking about it. Did you know that man had to learn to think so that he could learn to stop thinking? It's true. Thinking is something you've got to grow through. It's outmoded, it's juvenile, it's for intellectuals. But there is within you a dimension of consciousness that knows more than thinking will ever know. You don't believe it? It's true. Jesus said in the 8th chapter of John, the 23rd through the 23rd and 28th verses, he was talking to some people, and he said, "You are from below, I am from above. You are of this world, I am not." And what he was talking about was these two dimensions of life. He said, "You are from your earthly or human consciousness. I'm from above." And he said, "You need words. I don't need words. Words are three-dimensional. Words are symbols for ideas. Now, if you have an idea about a thing, notice that you always stand outside of the thing that you have the idea for. Now, it's important that we have ideas and words so that we can begin to communicate. But somewhere along the way, if you wish to have a real experience, you have to let go of your idea about the thing that you're having a real experience with. You show me someone that knows a lot about horses, and I'll guarantee you they don't think about horses. They just have experiences with horses. They ride horses, they feed horses, they scrub horses. They love horses. They love the way horses smell. They do. I do too. I love to smell a horse. Now, if you start thinking about it, you may not like, but here again is this idea of ideas. Things are on this earth to experience. And you have within you a dimension of consciousness, the fourth dimension, that if we will give up certain ideas that we have, we can begin to have the experience of that world. It's called heaven, the kingdom of the heavens. It's called the kingdom of God. But what it really is a very powerful, living beingness that exists within you at this moment. But you cannot experience this beingness until you clear a path through the mind so that you, your consciousness, and the world around you begin to become one experience. And this is so difficult because we have certain ideas that really fracture us. For example, let me give an example. The idea of good and bad. Almost everything that is important to us we have categorized as good or bad, or right or wrong. Do you know what good and right are? Anything that's good or anything that's right is something that works. Anything that's bad or anything that's wrong is something that doesn't work. If it doesn't work, it's bad. An example. If you programmed into one of today's computers 2 and 2 as 5, using the system of mathematics that we have here upon the earth, that's bad. Do you know why it's bad? Because it doesn't work. It will work to give you wrong answers, and that's what's bad. 2 and 2 as 5 in your computer, if that is the basic concept that in your programming, will work incorrectly. It will work for a long time incorrectly. But all of the conclusions that are drawn from that concept are bad, meaning it doesn't turn out right. If in the computer of your consciousness, or mine, if we are experiencing certain ideas that are incorrect, meaning that they don't compute with life, if they don't compute with universal intelligence, then that's wrong. That's the only thing that's wrong. If you use your marvelous mind incorrectly, well, you can't use it incorrectly because however you use it, it's going to work, won't it? But it will work to your disadvantage. It will work to your distress. It will work to your dis-ease. That's the only thing that's bad about it. And you can change that at a moment's notice. There's nothing that is good or bad except thinking makes it so. And when you've discovered that your life is no longer computing, if you go back and find where the problem was, you can correct it. And that's good. That's good. That's what's good, because then things will begin to work. All that you have to change, therefore, is your old idea, the idea that was not based on the truth. It was not based on reality. Therefore, if not being based on reality, it was only an idea or a concept or a notion that you had about life. And the problem with incorrect concepts is that they rob us of our consciousness. They take us out of the world of reality. And this is what the idea of good and bad does. It takes us out of reality, and that becomes self-defeating. See, it's very important to know what you think, because your behavior is the only thing that can defeat you. And your behavior is determined by what you think. The way your mind behaves, in what your mind connects you with or disconnects you from, that's all that's good or bad. And if we begin to think the right thoughts and experience the right emotions, in time, in a very short time, we will be plugged into the more powerful influences of life, of reality, of God, of this magnificent universe. But if we have taken into our computer a number of words that are not real and that don't compute, we've got a problem. If we think that there's such a thing as luck, good luck or bad luck, or disasters, or that certain things are awful and other things are not so awful, then this makes it exceedingly difficult for us to get out of our human consciousness and into the consciousness of that fourth dimension. Most people think that they have to think all the time. And I want you to know that you do not need to think all the time, and that you should not think all the time, and that if you think too much, it becomes a diseased condition of the mind. You get so caught up in your thinking that you lose the power to exist, to just be. Learning how to keep your mind still and quiet and allow it to become totally free from thinking, from analyzing, from figuring, from pondering, from constantly replaying the past. How many minutes today have you been in the past, some past experience? You weren't even where you were. Your mind had gone off somewhere. Do you know of what I speak? Well, if you can get out of that kind of thinking and pull yourself back into a now moment, you discover that in now moments you have the ability to change things. In now moments you can go into creative action. Only in a now moment can you change your life. Why do you think the heavy emphasis in recent years in our culture on meditation has occurred? Do you think this emphasis has occurred because certain people have been trying to sell us on the idea? No. The emphasis has occurred because there is something in us that knows that there's a higher state of consciousness, a place within us that, having experienced that place, we know far more in a fraction of a second than we could ever know in years of thinking. This fourth dimension of the mind. And this is what meditation is all about. It is to help us, through a very simple process, to relieve the tensions, the stress anxieties, the overworked mind, by causing our mind to simply relax and to let go and let God. Be still and know that I am God. Enter into the secret place of the Most High. This morning, before I left home, I spent about 15 minutes in meditation. I wish I could share with you what I felt. I can only report that the things that I experienced inside myself were so exquisitely beautiful. The feeling of the presence of God, the absolute certainty of good in my life and in your life too. Knowing with absolute certainty that there is an intelligence that loves us and that responds to us. But these were not ideas. I was not sitting there thinking about God. I was experiencing a conscious contact with another dimension of life. And it's yours. Thinking separates us from God. You can have the most exalted concepts. You will not find you will not find the experience of God in that formation of ideas that you have about God. This is why that frequently atheists have a much better chance than we. They think that God doesn't exist and therefore they don't think about him. And they're thinking about their life, and in going through certain experiences in their lives, the fear, the anxiety, suddenly there is a blowing out, have you been through one of those dark nights of the soul when you tried and struggled and wept and wondered and did everything that you possibly could to find the solution, and then in a sudden moment you just quit, you stopped, your mind, it did not seem to work anymore. You just stopped. Almost instantly there was peace. Nirvana, peace, a blowing out, a rising up, and from that moment forward the answers seemed to flow. They did flow, and you knew beyond words. As a matter of fact, when you tried to tell your friends what you knew, what you experienced, you could not, because words failed you. Ordinary words will not fit the dimension of spirit within us. This is why that we have to practice getting outside of our words, outside of our thoughts, into that which is above us. In Cosmic Consciousness by Richard Bach, some of the great mystics who have changed the destiny of this earth, who've had this experience and reported it to us, say, for example, Bayman, earthly language is entirely insufficient to describe what there is of joy, happiness, and loveliness contained in the inner wonders of God. Beatrice, making happy. That which I was seeing with the mind seemed to me a smile of the universe, for my inebriation was entering through the hearing and through the sight. O joy, O ineffable gladness, O life entire of love and of peace, O riches secure without longing. To go within ourselves to that place that is pure being, pure joy, pure bliss, pure consciousness. And in this experience, one does not have less of a life on earth. This is not something that you experience with your eyes closed and seated in the lotus position. It is something that you have walking through the desert or through the storm, or touching a friend, or being alone, knowing with absolute certainty that these things simply do not matter, and that my concepts of these things never ever connected me with them. It is only when I stop thinking of you that I experience you. Because if I think of you, I probably dishonor you. I can never ever know you through when I think. Sometimes people will say to me, Jack, you don't know my name, and you know absolutely nothing about me. Well, I want to know your name, but I'm absolutely unconcerned about knowing anything about you. Because if you and I start knowing too much about each other, we may lose our conscious contact with each other. Not really. You can tell me anything you want to, and I won't tell. And it won't shock me either. And nor will it diminish me. You in my eyes, correction. It will not. Because it is not you. That is only something that you have experienced. It's not you. I want the experience of you. I want the experience of you and of me, joining our forces together, our mind, our love, having the same kind of demonstration together that I reported to you that my friend George Leland and I had with his son. We can do that. That is an experience of pure consciousness. Last Friday, Karen and I drove to a small town just west of Toledo. I had to speak there in the late afternoon. We left early on purpose. I probably love taking short trips more than anybody you ever saw. And we just don't get to do that often enough. The feeling of riding along that bright, sunshiny afternoon, looking at the clouds. I can see the clouds now. I can see the formation of those clouds in my mind. Do you believe it? I can see some of the houses that we passed in the small towns that we drove through. Old homes, beautifully kept, with the lawns. The storefronts downtown. I didn't think about them. I just experienced them with my mind, with myself, with my beingness. An absolutely delicious and exciting day. Very little thinking, but consciousness. The deliciousness of life. And in this deliciousness, in its joy, in its ecstasy, in its knowingness, you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. But the truth is not something that you can write out in words. When you bring it down to words, you have lost it. It is above those words. And when you know the truth, what is it that it sets you free of? What is it that keeps you bound? Do you know? Your ideas of things. That's all. Just your ideas, your limiting concepts. You can never go farther in life than your ideas will permit you to travel. And as you break free of those chains that bind you, you will be free. Free to love, to enjoy, to appreciate, to be rewarded by spirit, to be healed in mind and body and in estate, to become successful beyond your wildest imagination, because you walk with the spirit of the universe, the spirit of life. The spirit that is in that hawk circling, looking at you, is the spirit that is in you looking at that hawk. And if you and that hawk cannot look at each other and enjoy a moment of feeling, you will wait a long time for a day that will be successful. This is success. This is that other dimension. You look at a great athlete. I'm talking about someone that really has trained and worked and is in excellent shape, and now that athlete is going into action. Do you think the athlete is thinking about what they're going to do? Do you think he's thinking now, here comes that ball, and I'm going to go right over here, and I'm going to jump 6 feet off the ground and catch it? Is that what the athlete does? Oh, no. It is one beautiful movement without thought, but yet with consciousness. Watch a great pianist, or sit before the whole symphony while it's playing from its highest. Feel the feelings. You think that those great musicians are sitting there thinking? No. They're caught up in something that is above thinking, and what they experience becomes your own experience because you too have stepped out of that thinking. Let me give you 2 or 3 techniques for stepping out of thinking and into that which is higher. Begin by believing that you have the power to control your own attitudes toward anything, because you do. You can determine how you're going to think and feel, or that you're going to stop certain thoughts and feelings. You can determine that the day is neither good nor bad. It is the day that is. This is the day that God has made. It's not a good day. It's not a bad day. It's the day that God has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. That's a choice. Give yourself the responsibility, the assignment, to begin to live in now moments, to appreciate what is. Watch yourself enjoy the trip home tonight. I can still see the traffic patterns, the lights as dusk settled coming back last Friday. The red tail light stretched out in front of us on the 4-lane highway, 6-lane highway, and the headlights oncoming in the other traffic lanes. I can see them now. I can still see the movement. Because I gave myself the assignment that day of enjoying every exquisite event or moment that occurred. That's my assignment. I have given myself the assignment of being excited about my life. I love my life. I'm excited about the fact that I live upon this earth. It's a wonderful place to be. I've given myself the assignment of watching my vocabulary, watching what I say, watching my words. I will not use words that keep me in my head, and words that assign meanings to situations that have nothing to do with that situation at all. You are a marvelous person, but you're not really. You're just a person, and I'm going to enjoy you. I'm going to look into your eyes until I see who's there. This week, if you hear someone say something with which you violently disagree, eliminate any sense of violence within yourself. Just love the person. Just love them. Enjoy them. Enjoy the experience. And then go into creative action to change how you are at that moment. Marvel at your life. Stop thinking too much, my friend, but take delight in every exquisite moment that comes to you. And if you do, you'll have an experience of the 4th dimension. And that's the way it really is.